Welcome to Relationships Through the Looking Glass. While here in Wonderland, we're going to discuss topics and share stories to help clear up distorted views of relationships. We provide a safe place for balance and honest conversation. While each episode can help all who listen, the focus will be on the community of color. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 5 of Relationships Through the Looking Glass. Today we're going to be talking about our first session of healing together. So we're going to be talking about, is it even possible to do therapy together at the same time with your partner? And as somebody who has attempted to do this, there's challenges. And as somebody who has attempted to do this for other people, as the practitioner, there's challenges. So before we jump into the questions, we're going to jump into our weekly check-ins to see how everybody's doing. We're going to start with Keisha. Keisha, how's your week been? What's been going on? How you feeling?
Hey. My week has been busy, but it's been pretty good. Actually made a business deal this week. I am very excited about that. I had a pretty decent week.
Awesome. Business deals are always good if they're profitable. And we know yours will be, so that's awesome. How about you, Nicole? How have you been? How's your week been going?
So far, so good. It's been good. Just lots of snow, lots of weather issues, but I'm still here.
Snow. We had snow for what, 3 hours, Keisha? I think it was 3-4 hours.
Enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah, snow. So good. I'm glad you're staying warm, and you guys can keep the snow over there. I'm ready to go to the beach. So I've had our 3 hours of snow for the season, and I'm good. We're going to jump over to Chris. How you doing, Chris? How's your week been?
Week's been pretty good. I know the last couple weeks I've just been doing a lot of personal reflection, thinking about as far as what things that I want to do moving forward, and also kind of seeing other things from other people's perspectives. So I'm getting there.
Okay, that's good. Getting there is good. Progression is good.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Anybody who knows me knows my week has been non-existent. I want to shout out to all the people who have checked in on me from the 30-day challenge, my little OG team who wanted to make sure I was even still alive. That was very thoughtful. Smith, Sean Connors, Levi, I'm still here. It's just been a very taxing past few months, actually, but we're making it. I'm thinking the light's coming at the end of the tunnel. We're entering into Pisces season. So I don't know what that means. Maybe there'll be a lot more crying and more emotional outbursts. I have no idea. But anytime I get to create mermaids, makes me happy. So look out for that. There'll probably be some popping up on our IG page. So the topic at hand on this episode is couples and healing couples and how to do that together. Couples therapy, couples coaching, whatever that might look like, but doing the work to heal together in tandem. So the first question, I'm going to throw it to Keisha first, is do you feel that couples can even heal together? Is that a possibility? Is that something that is even something that you can work towards?
Absolutely. I do believe that couples can heal together if they're willing to do the work. Of course, I think it's a beautiful thing when they do heal together. It's not just from past trauma. I mean, for an example, it could be from alcohol and drugs, so it can be different angles of that healing taking place. And I think it's a beautiful thing when they are able to do it together. Okay. Because they, at that point, they become part of each other's support system. So that's neat.
Very true. How about you, Nicole? Do you think couples can heal together?
Yeah, I agree with Keisha that it's definitely possible, and they can utilize each other as a support when, more help or more explanation or more different perspectives are needed. So I think so.
And how about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think the main thing is both both of them, it have to be as one, like one union. It can't just be his and hers, or it can't be one person and the other person. If they are truly together and have that true union and bond, then they can't heal together. If not, it could be one person that's doing the healing, and the other person may not be given enough empathy towards the other person to heal with that person.
Okay. And I agree with all of you. I do think it's possible. I also like the fact how Keisha said, they can be each other's support system. But I think a challenge that comes up is if they're both there for the right reasons, right? If you have somebody there who's just going through the motions, that's something that you have to consider. And I'll talk more about that as we go on through the episode, because that would be an example for me. Like, I had no intention to heal what we were there to do. I just did it to check a box off to say, yeah, we did it, right? But there was no intention. And actually, when the therapist was like, what do you want? My response was for him to let me go. So I think going and attending therapy and everything together, I think it has to be up on front that why we're doing it, and if everybody's doing it for the right reason, to make sure everybody's being like authentic and honest to make sure it's successful. But I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go into that. But it kind of segues into the next question or topic. Can you successfully do couples therapy if one person doesn't attend? So even if that means they're not attending, they might be there in person, but if they're not there like mentally, that's still a version of not attending. Or if you have somebody who you bring it up and they're like, no, I'm not going, I don't want to do that. Can couples therapy still occur if somebody does not attend the session? So Keisha, what do you think about that? Is it possible to say, okay, we're going to do couples therapy and one person backs out, or before it goes down, somebody's like, you know what, forget it, I'm not doing it, or somebody goes, but they're not really there, they're not present during the sessions? What's your view on it?
It all depends. It depends on if both partners or the couple both have the presenting issues, or if it's just the person that's going to therapy with the presenting issue. For example, if let's say one person is an alcoholic and when they're drinking, they're abusive with their verbally and physically, but then when they're not drinking, they're not. Well, if that person goes to therapy and then the person who's being abused doesn't go to therapy, it may improve in their relationship, but I always see it as the person who's been abused, how are they dealing with that trauma? Because that's still a level of trauma too. But it is a strong possibility that if the person who's actually experiencing the issues, if they get the necessary help that they need, it may improve the overall relationship. It just all depends on both parties. Now, if the person who is being traumatized or affected by the other person's behavior is going to therapy, but then the person who's causing it is not going to therapy, I really don't see how that's going to help as far as couples therapy. Now, I think when it comes down to couples therapy, I think it's best when they have individual therapy also part of couples therapy, because at some point, I think it's important to pull that couple apart and kind of work with them one-on-one and then join them back together. I think many times when you get a couple in the room, whether they're married or single, and you're addressing issues, sometimes they feel attacked. So sometimes that make one person back out. So that's my take on it.
That makes sense. What about you, Nicole? Do you think it's possible to have a successful couples therapy if one person doesn't attend or backs out?
In order to be a couple, there needs to be more than one. So I don't think that is possible for couples therapy to be successful without the couple engaging and participating in the sessions.
Okay. And what about you, Chris?
I would say absolutely not. I mean, like, if if one person isn't going, it's not couple counseling. It'll just be counseling for that one person. Now, I know after hearing Keisha's explanation on it, does kind of make sense if it's one person that's being mistreated or abused, then maybe it is something where if they can seek the counseling first and then bring in the other individual in, that may be something to get to it. But I think far as just starting off, if both parties aren't bought into it, then I don't think it's going to be as successful.
And my answer is kind of straddling the fence. So I think it's more based on what the outcome, what's considered success. What's the outcome measurement that classifies as success, right? So if you have a couple who's going to therapy to heal each other, to heal individually, to heal as a group, if the outcome is I'm going to better myself, I want the couple to heal too, but at the end of the day, foundationally, I want to better myself. And going, and then you back out, or you just choose not to go, but I want to improve myself because improving myself is going to improve the relationship. There could be a potential of improving that way, or it might make me see that this relationship does not need to happen. So if the success is leaving the relationship, going to therapy might show me reasons or ways for me to do that. Then it's a success because I've left, the relationship ended. So that goes back to the whole domestic violence. I'm going to use domestic violence as an example. I have a lot of time where clients say, okay, we're going to go have the couples therapy, or somebody backs out, or I'm not going, I don't want to go. She goes anyway and gets enough strength to leave the relationship. So to me, that's success. That's success. So I guess it comes down to the individual's definition of what success is. Now, I will say, one person can't do all the work. You can't look at it as I'm going to therapy to heal us, because relationships can't heal somebody. You have to do the work to heal yourself. You can't look to a relationship to heal you. Somebody else can't heal you. So if it's okay, I'm going and it's going to heal the relationship as a whole, that's not going to work. But if you're going to better yourself, and whatever that success rate is, I'm having better behaviors, I'm having better responses, my trauma response is not the way it was, or I've realized that this relationship is not meant for me, so I successfully leave, then that can be considered a success. So it really comes down to what you determine success in the relationship. And if it's more of maybe I have an issue with communication. So if I'm going to fix that, and now I'm communicating better in the relationship, and now we have better communication and a lot of our issues have been resolved, that could also be a measurement of success. Do I recommend going to a couples therapist or couples therapy without your partner? No, I don't. But if you find a therapist and you really vibe with that person and they're willing to work with you, keep working on yourself. So what I'm saying is, don't stop your healing because somebody else doesn't want to do their part. You just don't call it couples therapy anymore. It starts to be an individual therapy. But at the end of the day, the goal for you is healing. So don't, because somebody else says, I don't want to go, don't stop your progression, right? And then you have to look at, if you don't want to go, why? Why doesn't somebody want to go? And that's another question. Why would somebody not want to go to couples therapy? And if that's something that you've accounted as a game changer, right? So Keisha, if you were in a situation and your partner did not want to go to couples therapy and you felt that you needed it for success, is that something that you can work around? Or is that something that you're going to look more deeper and say, you know what, if you're not going to go with me to therapy, then we don't need to do this, period?
That's a tough one. I would say, if I felt like me and my partner needed therapy, which I've been in that situation before, actually, when I was married, and my ex-husband, he didn't want to go to therapy in the beginning, but I knew it was something that we needed to do because the communication was off. It was a lot of things that was off. So eventually we went, and it was at that point where, okay, you don't want to do therapy, that's fine. But I'm at the point where, I can't bear this anymore. So, when it was time to do the separation, that's when he wanted to get into therapy. And, through therapy, it helped us realize that, we're not the best fit. So, that was our way of coming to the point of, this marriage is over and we need to go our separate way. Doesn't always happen for everybody else, but if one person is willing to go and the other person isn't, they probably don't see it as an issue. It's several reasons why they think you're the problem and it's not them. It's a whole lot of issues why they won't go. But if they're not willing to go, and the other partner is really seeing that this is something that they need, then that can tear the relationship apart. It definitely can, whether you're dating or if you are married. So that's a tough one. So it just all depends on the individual.
Yeah, it is tough. How about you, Nicole? If you were in a relationship and you felt therapy was something that you needed and your partner was against it, how would you maneuver with
it? For me, it would be a deal breaker. Going to therapy it's a form of commitment to wanting to work on the relationship. And, obviously, if I'm wanting to go, there is an issue that needs some attention. And if you're not willing to put attention on the relationship or the issue, then I'm not sure I'd be able to move forward. The issue is obviously going to still remain, and it'll only get worse. So that's definitely a red flag, deal breaker, etc.
Okay. And what say ye, Chris?
Yeah, now I've been on the other end of this which I've talked about this previously with premarital counseling before. So the counseling before marriage. And my impression or my thoughts on counseling and therapy was it's when you have a problem. And I'm like, if it's not broke, then don't fix it. But a lot of times what I've learned over the years is counseling and therapy is more so, I think it's more kind of maintaining something, and it may bring some things out that you didn't know was there, like potential problems. So you can detect those potential problems early enough and you can fix it before it becomes big. And now it's a bigger issue that you have to, a bigger hurdle that you need to cross. So I think that's having that understanding right there. Now, if I'm looking at now, if that was the case, I think I would want to talk to the person more and just seeing like why do they think counseling is not needed or therapy isn't needed, just to see like what they're thinking. Not trying to really persuade them to do it, but just trying to get their mindset on why they're against it, and then going from there.
That makes sense. And I like the fact that you said you would do more fact searching, right? You would talk to your partner to see why they don't feel the need and maybe come to a common ground. So that makes sense. And for the person who was on the other end, right, I went to it and sat down and participated, but I wasn't there. I wasn't present. And that's kind of the same thing. And it might be kind of worse because the other person might be feeling that you're in there for the right reason and you're just like, look, I'm just here because you asked me to go. But at the end of the day, if it takes two people to get to an understanding and one of them is just not going to do their part of the work, again, that's something that you want to look at. And I know for me, moving forward, I'm definitely going to have to go to therapy, like couples therapy. I don't care who it is, like, because I have been by myself now for so long and gotten so used to being single that having to merge into another person's life and having another person merge into mine, I'm just going to want to be able to start on a solid foundation. So just to do precautionary work, right? So I would definitely, if I'm going into a long-term relationship and a committed relationship, want to put counseling on the table, or couples counseling, couples coaching on the table, because I want to make sure that we're starting rock solid, because I got quirks about me, and I'm pretty sure the other person's going to have issues with them, and no one is perfect. So we need to figure out the best way to resolve conflicts when it happens and communicate and everything else. So that brings me to the next question, and that's, who exactly is couples therapy for? Do you necessarily have to be married to go to couples therapy? And I'm going to throw that to you, Keisha. And I kind of hinted to what my feeling was on that, but do you feel that you have to be married to do couples therapy or premarital therapy?
Absolutely not. No, if you're dating, I think going to counseling is a good idea too. It's probably the best idea, especially before you lean towards marriage, because at least that'll give you the opportunity to open the door to see, is there any unhealed areas that need attention before you move forward to actually, to the engagement and the marriage and that whole spill. So I think it's a good idea if you in a relationship with someone and you just want to touch bases. Sometimes people are in relationship and they don't even know each other's love language. And believe it or not, that'll be like one of the relationship killers when you don't understand each other, something, as far as the love language. So that's a lot of what I've seen. A lot of couples have come in because of that, and they didn't even know that was actually the issue until a therapist helped guide them into seeing that. And so once they were able to identify their own love languages and understand each other love language, it actually helped the relationship to grow stronger and stay healthy. So I think it's important. Yeah, of course. If you and your mate is, willing to go in for therapy, I think it's definitely a good idea, especially if in the back of your head, you're thinking and believing that this is the person that you like to marry one day and spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah. And I'll use the example that you assisted with, not throwing names or time frames out there, but just having an outside ear on, I guess that was a disagreement. I guess you can call it a disagreement, to where both parties were able to be heard and an understanding of, oh, that's not what you meant. Even though that's what you said, I had a different definition, so I took it differently. But when you have two people who are arguing, or I won't say arguing, I tend to shut down. So if you have somebody who's shut down and like, you know what, I'm not even doing this anymore, but the other person's like, that's not how I meant it. I might have said this word, but both of us having two different definitions, having an outside person come and break it down was very helpful. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. And, certain conversations definitely shouldn't take place over text messages. I think it's important to make sure that you're having, especially, I've only dated one guy that was just the best when it came down to the communication piece. Like certain conversations, we were not even having over the telephone conversation. We had to be face to face and have certain levels of conversations about whatever situation, especially if it was something serious. So I think in your situation, whatever was said was said, and the other person on the opposite end interpreted it in their way. So to have somebody neutral, which is pretty much the therapist that comes into play to help you process that, it kind of helps things move along. Think about it. Even when being in school, I can remember being in high school and just, someone said something and I took it the wrong way. It wasn't what they intended. And we went years without being friends until we finally had that conversation. So I just use that example just to kind of throw in there. Just think about it, Michelle. If that never happened, you would have walked away from that conversation believing one thing, while the other person would have been believing something else.
Yeah. So, Nicole, let's pull on out of that. But yeah, you're right. And I think too, there has to be an understanding of how to have a disagreement. I think that's a skill set that you have to develop, and to be able to have a disagreement, and it's not running away all the time, or it's not throwing things, or it's not cussing somebody out. It's, we need to figure out where we disconnected to get back on track. So you're absolutely right, and sometimes it does take a neutral party to come in and mediate the process. So how about you, Nicole? What do you think in the regard of
I think the couples therapy is definitely needed for anybody that's in a coupling situation, or that is interested in relating with another party in a positive manner. I think it's important to help with communication style, and like I've said, defining what the certain words mean for certain people. I think that's important, but most important for people that are relating in a positive manner, like being able to go, like you said, through the process of a disagreement, but then more importantly, like if you care about the relationship, how you repair and move forward in a healthy manner. And I think therapy will definitely help with that, because if you just leave it as it is, the relationship is damaged and there's no repair, there's no closing the loop, and both parties might feel some kind of way and continue or not continue the relationship at all. So therapy will definitely help tie up those loose ends.
Yeah, I agree. And Chris, what's your view about couples, that aren't married, going to therapy?
Now, if it's something that, if it's exclusive and they are looking to build and grow together, and if it's a long term, if both individuals see it as a long term thing, then absolutely, there should be some counseling and therapy in there. But if it's somebody that you just like kicking it with, which most people smashing are, there you go, man. So we can't have one episode without you.
I'm just saying, you kicking, smashing, so violent.
Yeah, I'm trying to be serious.
You are. I'm just saying.
Look, yeah, no, but for like, if it's somebody that if it's, you really want something long term, and both people have to have the same mutual feelings, like, hey, we may not be engaged, but we're exclusively with each other, and potentially this is what we both want, then it is something that it should be done. Because like I said, what I've come to realize, and I know I just said this before, is counseling is more so just maintenance. It's relationship maintenance, just like you get maintenance on your car. And I know I've discussed that before. You don't just take your car to the shop once something is going wrong. You do have your routine checks that you do every few months just to see if there are any potential problems. And that's the same thing when you have a relationship. You should have that counseling and therapy. And it might not be, it can be informal as well. It doesn't have to be like a formal meeting, just something like every, let's say 2 or 3 months, you sit down, you talk to somebody, and just have somebody mediate something. Just the relationship, because it may be something that one person may not feel comfortable talking to the other person about, and they may not think that it's a big deal. But a lot of times the other person may feel that way. They may feel the same thing, but they may not want to bring it up as well. So just having somebody come in to just talk to, and just maintaining the relationship, and potentially picking up any issues that may come up.
Right. And I agree. And I kind of hinted to that early on. It's definitely something that I'm not going to say require, but strongly suggest going into a committed relationship. Just because, again, anything that's there to help in a connection, anything that is there to help in a relationship, I don't see why not. But there are people who are against it. And I mean, I've talked to some people who are against couples therapy, but I'll throw it out to you guys. Keisha, have you ever dealt with anybody? I know you said your ex-husband, but have you ever dealt with anybody other than your ex-husband? Or what was his reasoning? What would be a reason why people would be against doing couples therapy?
Secrets exposed, shame, embarrassment from things they have encountered, just not wanting to face facts, face their reality, especially when it comes down to someone who's, with sexuality. I think I've seen several couples come in where, especially with men, they really, I've seen men really, really try to show their mate, a good life, giving them gifts and all this good stuff. But when it comes down to the intimacy part, just not having that connection. So, and they fight it. They fight coming to therapy because they know that, or they're afraid that a therapist is going to actually pull it out of them or touch on some sensitive areas that's going to, I guess, expose them or cause them to expose themselves or pretty much be honest with their partner. So yeah, that's like definitely one of the subjects that I've seen where, mate really, they don't want to come because they know it's going to come out. That's one of the tough areas.
Okay. And what about you, Nicole? Have you ever interacted or dealt with anybody, or you experienced somebody who was just like, no, I don't want to do couples therapy, or I don't think it's necessary? And what were their reasons behind it?
Yeah, I have dealt with people that did not want to do couples therapy, and they were true narcissists. So in essence, they were in denial of an issue or a problem. And then outside of those people, I think people don't want to go because they're not open or willing to look at and work on their own issues. It's so much easier to blame somebody else for something that was said or done than to look at yourself and see how you actually contributed to the issue or the problem. So people don't want to accept responsibility for their own actions. And part of counseling / therapy will do that. So they're either in denial or fearful of, the exposure, like Keisha said.
Right. And I know you kind of hinted on this already, Chris, about why you really weren't interested in doing premarital counseling, but what are some other reasons why you've heard or you've even thought that it's not necessary, couples therapy wasn't necessary, or somebody who didn't want?
I can just speak on my own experience, and the reason why I was against it, one, just not having much knowledge on it to know exactly what it was for and what it could do. And then also, I know Keisha had touched on this as far as just being scared. It's just the fear of going to talk to somebody about what it's like. You're going to talk to them about what's going on with you, and then kind of maybe having that person judge you, or then you think they may get inside your head and have you thinking certain things about yourself. But at the end of the day, doing that, I mean, it helps you get to know yourself better. And you realize things that you've done and it's been natural to you. And then you kind of understand the why. Like, why am I like this? Why do I react like this? Why do I do this? Why do I treat people this way? So it's just that fear. And I know especially in men, it's just like not wanting to talk about your feelings. And then it's just like the negative perception that therapy has had in our community for so long. Now it does seem as that it's changing. It does seem like in the past few years it has been changing, and that conversation is there. It used to be, hey, if you're going to get therapy or you're getting counseling, hey, something's wrong with you, you're crazy. And I don't like using that word, but that's just the connotation that was put out there. But now it's more so, hey, this is needed. that's part of self-care. Like most people think with self-caring is just going to get your hair done or get your nails done, get a massage, but that therapy, that's a form of self-care as well, as far as mentally improving yourself.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I've heard many excuses from people. One main one, especially in our community, is I'm not going to go tell somebody all our business. Or why do we need to go tell somebody all our business? What's going on between us? We don't need to talk to nobody, blah, 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 blah. Like, I have literally had excuse upon excuse on why people don't want to go to counseling. It's really something in our community that we have to get honest about and discuss why we have such a fear. So we don't want people in our business. Okay, but if you're yelling out in the street, having the cops called to the house and everything else, guess what? They're already in your business.
Posting on Facebook.
Yeah,
Instagram,
exactly. Everybody's already in your business. So, we have to really start looking at excuses and getting serious about, okay, what is it that we want? What is the common goal for both of us in this relationship? And if we can't get there, then we have to have another discussion. You know what I'm saying? So we talked about what some of the reasons people don't want to go to therapy. What could be some reasons? Not the obvious ones, not that we're fighting all the time, we can't communicate, but what are some subtle reasons why you might want to consider couples therapy? So this is for people who are listening who might not have an issue going on with their relationship, or they feel that they're good to go, they don't really have communication issues. What are some subtle reasons why you would want to go to couples therapy? And I really like to highlight what Chris said about, maybe not doing it every month, but every quarter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be on a regular basis where you're like once a week, once a month, but getting a checkup is okay. So Keisha, what are some reasons why people might want to consider going to therapy, even if there's not a blaring issue, a red flag going on?
Sex therapy. That's
where we're going, Keisha. That's where we're going.
I'm just saying that's like a hot topic where couples they want to explore, they want to understand each other, they want to dive in a little bit more, a little deeper, so what, Chris?
I'm sorry.
You know what, Chris? Audience, if you can see Chris' face right now. Anyway, no, but I'm being honest. I'm just speaking of people I've seen, come into my office, couples. So that's definitely one of the topics. Another one is dealing with when a woman going through menopause. And so men trying to understand, okay, she's 50, but now she acting like she's, I don't know, 40, 30. Maybe she's wanting to be still in this, in that area of sex therapy, wanting more, not wanting it at all. So just kind of, understanding those areas. And many times it's the communication piece too. So couples come in kind of like what Chris was talking about periodically, just to kind of give updates and just address okay, I need some tips on how can I say, hey, your feet stink, you need to go wash your feet or whatever, just any little thing. So, that's when you do brief interventions. And, couples usually go into counseling to learn techniques by using the I statement, I feel XYZ versus pointing the finger, So those are little subtle reasons why people may come in for therapy. Just from what I've experienced, many times it's in the sex department.
Sex and subtle, those two things really, I don't know. Sex and subtle. Hey, but that's honest. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Nicole. So Nicole, what are some reasons that people might want to consider couples therapy?
I think I agree with Keisha and all of her insight, but I also think that it's a way to get on the same page communication wise, love language wise, and then also to go even deeper, have our own traumas in our life and our partners might not know what those triggers are that are telling of that trauma. So I think therapy will help. Couples therapy can help to kind of clear the muddy waters as far as like, why does this certain thing bother you, and give tools to work through those sorts of things beyond the therapy chair. Like once they get home and the dust settles, utilizing some tools to work through their issues. So I think it can help with conflict management, stuff like that as well.
I agree. And Chris is over here having a whole comedy show by himself, so I'm pretty sure he's ready to share your knowledge, Chris, on some reasons why couples would want to consider therapy. And you can't use sex because Keisha already said it.
Nah, look, man, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I know, as far as me going forward, I would want to, if it's when you're like, let's say, for instance, you're dating somebody, you're getting to know somebody, and if you feel as though like you can't get to, like, that person has these barriers up and they're guarded, and it's like you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I gain enough trust from this person to like let them let their guard down, but it's because of the previous past traumas that they've dealt with. And it's just, I mean, I think therapy could help that out for as you knowing, and I think that's a lot of things that people don't do enough in relationships. And that's a form of therapy, just talking about your previous relationships, even though you may not want to dwell on the past. But if you're involved with somebody and you don't know, hey, previously they dealt with, say for instance, from a guy, if previously he dealt with a verbally abusive spouse or mate, so now if when they get with a new individual, as soon as that person starts yelling at him, 9 times out of 10, that guy's going to shut down, because it's like, oh, look, man, you don't want to hear anybody yelling at him. But if she doesn't know that, then she wouldn't be aware of it, so she wouldn't know, hey, I need to know to talk with him a certain way. The same way if it was instance where if a woman was in a abusive relationship previously, and it always happened when her ex-mate drank, and he would get abusive. So then what would happen is, when she saw her new spouse, a new mate, start to drink, it may trigger something in her, and she'll start getting nervous because of the past traumas. So I think, for us discussing the previous relationships with your current mate, I think that's a form of therapy. And I don't think that might be something that can't happen like one-on-one. I think you would need that professional to be able to sit in on that, to kind of discuss it as well and give advice on that. I don't know what y'all thoughts are.
I mean, that makes perfect sense, and kind of piggybacks on what Nicole said. Everybody has a trauma story, and sometimes it's very difficult to talk about it. I know for me, my trauma story is pretty nasty, and we had a whole episode about how to love a survivor, to where when that time comes in a relationship to bring up your traumas, that is a terrifying time for that victim survivor, because you don't know if your partner is going to stick around, or are they going to change their behavior because now they know, oh wow, she's been through this, or he's been through this, now I have to coddle her, or this, that, and the other. And sympathy is not what we want. It's being able to be honest about our experience, and allow you to understand, this is the way we do what we do, or these are the protective defensive mechanisms that we have developed, and this is why. But being vulnerable enough to share that with somebody is terrifying, or can be terrifying, for a victim survivor. So it's definitely something, and again, piggybacking on what you said, Chris, and Nicole, what you said, sharing your trauma story with somebody does take time. And sometimes you might want to benefit from having a professional or just a third party to listen and help mediate that. we really have to be transparent in what we want out of relationships. We really have to be transparent and authentic with what we're willing to do to maintain it. And that's where that really comes down to. Getting into the relationship is might be considered easy. It's maintaining that relationship. It's maintaining that connection and making sure it's healthy for all parties. So as we get closing in on our hour, we're going to go back around. So Keisha, if there was somebody who was considering going into a relationship, or somebody who has a partner who is like, I'm not really feeling it, I don't want to do it, what would be a suggestion or something that you would tell that person or individual to kind of help assist in that process?
Oof. I would just identify the benefits of counseling and just kind of talk to them about how counseling can actually help improve the relationship. So I think, you know what, too, for a person who really don't want to go to counseling, but they actually have, they take that step to come in the door, I think it's important for the therapist, too, to have a sense of humor, to be open, smile, to make that person feel comfortable, too. So I think it goes both ways. But I would tell that person, just really highlight the benefits of therapy to try to encourage them to actually participate.
I needed the exact opposite. I needed my therapist. She was hardcore. She told me to stop my sarcasm. She told me to stop my jokes. She told me how none of that was helping. She didn't smile at me not once. That lady didn't smile at me one time. Like, she was evil eyeing me. But that's what I was responding to, because I had respect for the craft. And I think somebody who's too jokey with me, you're going to get surface level, because I'm not going to, for me, that's just for me.
I think they need to be able to know how to switch up depending on that person. The therapist should be able to read that person enough, I believe, to know, a good therapist, to know how to approach, the person that's before you.
Keisha, you know me. You know me, Keisha.
Well, yeah. And if you know what, even in our friendship, I have to be brutally honest with you, just like that. And that's how you receive it. So, for just, the approach may not be the same for every, I don't know whether it's a client, patient, student, or whatever, for everybody that enter a therapist's office. And I'm speaking from a therapist standpoint. So you have to be able to use different theoretical approaches. You just have to be able to move with the person that's in front of you, I think. So, what works for you may make the next person go into their shell and never come out if you come that hardcore on them. So, yeah.
That's true. And I think, too, for me, that honest and that straight, direct approach, it really is because I'm a smartass. So if you come at me in smartass mode, jokey mode, then that's where we're going to stay. We're not going to get to the core issue, because I'm going to be joking with you the whole time. And so you're right. I do think people need to be able to adjust accordingly to who your clients are. But I'll know, for me, as when I'm in that mode, I'm not jokey at all. I barely crack a smile like in real life. So yeah. How about you? So Nicole, what would you tell somebody who was either on the fence about it, who was thinking, okay, this might sound good, or I want to do it, but my partner doesn't? Like, what would be some advice you would tell that individual?
I would tell them to reevaluate the relationship, to take a really good look to see if it is worth moving forward with somebody who doesn't want to take the steps to repair, or take the steps to at least look at the issue and work as a team with you to repair the issue. Like, take a real good look at that situation. And if it's worth it, go ahead. If not, time to part ways.
Okay. Straight to the point. Nicole, straight to the point. And what about you, Chris? And especially coming from a male's perspective, because a lot of times that's where the hang up is. And I'm not trying to throw shade to any men listening, but in my experience, when I'm hearing that one of the partners does not want to attend, it's typically the male who doesn't. So what type of advice would you give somebody who's listening who is like, I'm on the fence, I want to do it, but my partner doesn't, or to the partner who doesn't want to do it? What would you say?
To start off with the person who's trying to get their partner to come to therapy, I would just tell them, just be patient. Don't try to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, because all you're going to do then, you're going to cause a bigger just kind of with headbutting, and you basically making them feel as you making them do something they don't want to do. So, I mean, I think what the option is, just suggest it, see like how receptive they are to it. If they just automatically shut it down, then you have to maybe go at it at a different angle. But by doing that, I would say maybe that person needs to have some personal therapy on their own, and maybe discuss with their therapist of, hey, like I really want to bring my husband in or my significant other in, like, do you have any suggestions? Because I mean, they are the professionals. They've dealt with this, I'm pretty sure, plenty of times before, so they may know different ways of being able to bring that spouse in. So I mean, that's on that end. On the end, for someone who is against doing the couples therapy, I would tell them that only good can come out of it. I've never heard anybody say, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, I went to therapy and this bad thing happened, or it didn't work for me, or I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything negative about it. So I mean, my thing is, only good can come out of it. Now, like I said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to get there eventually, but just know in the end, you're going to be better for it. The relationship is going to be better for it. Now, is it always going to be nice and easy? No. I mean, there's going to be some rough patches in it, but man, you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs.
Thank you for that. Your jokes aren't funny. So your jokes aren't funny.
Like,
yeah. Y'all, hold up. In real life, Chris tries to throw jokes all day, and the jokes just ain't funny. And then he throws it up on here. Man, slow clap, Keisha. Slow clap.
Look, man, that wasn't a joke. I was being serious.
That makes it even worse. Woo, that cliche was, you gotta crack a few eggs.
Make the omelet unless you crack a few eggs.
We love you, Chris. We love you, Chris. So, but on all honesty, kind of going back to what Nicole said, if you are really honest about going to therapy, you see that there's a reason that you need to go and your partner does not want to, you probably want to reassess the situation and really look at if this is something you can work around or if this is a deal breaker. And for some people, it might be. If it's important enough to me to maintain and keep this relationship healthy and you do not want to go, then that tells me that you are not on the same page, regardless of what reservations you have about going to therapy. But like Chris also said, don't push. Probably won't have a great outcome if you do. So again, healing together, that's the purpose, but both parties have to be participating, right? You can't have a football game going and one team doesn't show up to play, right? So definitely something you have to consider when you're talking about couples therapy. So as we close out, I want to thank everybody for participating, listening. Make sure you check us out on our Facebook page, our Instagram, and our website, www.thelookingglass.fans. Our blog is now active. We actually just put a blog up this afternoon about the episode we did with All Things Black podcast about violence in the Black community. So definitely check it out. And we just can't wait to come back. And next week is our live episode. So make sure that you tune in so you can be a guest and you can assist Chris with his non-funny jokes and some not funny. But we appreciate you guys listening. And as always, you guys take care, stay safe, be well.